The main focus of this video is the execution of a detail in Revit and how to achieve an expression where communication with the receiver is top priority. Do not focus on the unfinished detail and the lack of information in the details. Remember to see earlier videos to understand the workflow throughout the phases. The video is for all skill levels. I will go through both basic and advanced tools, so you're able to take advantage of the full potential in Revit. Let's start the detail creation with a warning. Keep in mind that what we see in the callout is a small area or a slice of the 3D model. If you delete elements in the callout, they will be deleted in the model as well. With the model in mind, we have different options to complete the detail. Roughly, we can say that we have 3 scenarios. 1. We can choose to use the entire underlaying model, but that will require that we have a very detailed model. 2. We can use parts of the 3D model and add 2D on top of the view. Or 3. We can choose not to use anything at all from the underlying 3D model by completing the 2D detail from scratch in a drafting view. In this example, I will add 2D on top of the wall and roof components. Let's start on the section where the callout was originally taken from. If we have added 2D annotation on a section view, we can copy it to the callout. To make sure that these mortar joints are placed in the correct height, I create a repeating detail item for checking. So I select the 2D from this section view, press Ctrl C to copy it, and then I go to the detail view, and then I can, under paste, I can align to same place. A bit later in this video, I'll show you how you can create your own detail components or detail items. So now, first of all, I will go through some of what we can call basic or simple detailing. I will replace the roof covering with a filled region, and this should be our underlay for our roofing felt. So I create a filled region, a 22 millimeter plywood as my filled region, and I would like to have medium lines, and I would like that my fill pattern is somehow half-toned or toned down. Remember, when we created all the callouts or the details, we applied this architectural detail view template. You can see the display model is set to half-tone. So we change this back into normal, so we can see the black colors on the background components. So now we have decided that we need to have 5 bricks on top of or over our window, a way to control the background components. We can use this cut profile, so we can control the layers in the wall component. So now I would like to add the 2 layers of asphalt felt on top of this plywood sheathing. So I create a new line style. I would like that the projection or the line weight should be around 5. The colors is set to black, and I would like to have a line pattern dashed. So if you haven't been in here looking at the different line weights, you can see that a 4 in a detail 1 to 5 is 0.5 millimeter when we begin to print it. So under Annotate, I take a detail line, change the line style to asphalt felt, set an offset to 4 millimeter, and then I begin to draw my lines. So in a detail, it's a good idea to move very close layers apart from each other. For example, now I would like to model this or to draw this metal flashing. And as you can see, it's not placed in the exact correct position. Now I would like to show that we have the first layer. On top of that, we have our metal flashing, and then we will have the second layer on top of this. It's a good idea to create a group, as I'm doing here. Then we can reuse the group on other views. When we create a group, it will be placed under groups, and then we can drag it into the view. As you can see here, if I change one group, for example, to a thicker line, it will be applied to all other groups in the model. But for now, we'll keep it as it is. And then continue adding my second layer of asphalt felt. And as I said before, it's a good idea to move the layers apart so it's visually clear what is going on, and how we would like the different layers of asphalt felt to perform in real life, so to say. I will continue replacing my model geometry with 2D on top of this. Now I will, instead of creating, as I did with the flashing, creating that from scratch, I will begin to use detail items or detail components. So I create a new dimension lumber for the underlay of my fiber cement panel. I press my spacebar on the keyboard to rotate these, and I can then adjust my plywood sheathing to the underlay and drag endpoints of my detail lines. If you would like to work a bit smarter than using detail lines and groups, as I showed you before with the metal flashing, I can strongly recommend you working with detail items, as you saw before. First of all, it's a good idea to check out what can we actually get for free by adding detail items from the DANedu content that we have installed. Check out this huge library of different detail items or detail components. If you go one step back into the Denmark catalog, with the installation of Revit, you can see a lot of different detail items came with this installation. The style is American, but still we can use some of the detail items in our details as well. So promise me to check that out. Another option is to have a look at the different manufacturer of components. In this case, it's Strong Tie, where you'll find, for example, these metal ankle brackets as detail items. And remember, when we have loaded the detail items into the model, we can use them. And now I will place my wall plate again. and I would like to visually cut away the inner leaf just underneath this 45 by 95 wall plate, and that will be the top of our inner wall. So now I'll begin to work with setting up the text or the description of the different components in my detail. I have prepared a small detail item, as you can see here, with 10 millimeter squares, and that will be my guide for placing text in my detail correct, so it's not all over the place. At the end of this video, I'll show you how I have created this small guide. First of all, I will place manually text to the detail. So under Annotate and Text, or use the shortcut at the top, I will add 2 millimeter text to this flashing, for example. And this is why I created this guide. You can see there is 10 millimeter between the lines. I can continue underneath this gutter. Again, we have the same distance between every line of text. If we have the same components as we have here, this 19 by 45 millimeter packing, if I select the text, I can add more leaders, so I don't have to replace the text like this. Instead of adding the text again and again, we can work a bit smarter doing those details. When we have placed detail items, you can see we have a lot of parameters in the different details. So instead of adding manually text, what we can do is that we can add a tag instead, a detail item tag that will look into the parameter that you prefer to look into. In this case, it will be the type comments field that we would like to take out, or the type comments that we would like to take out information from. If we select this angle bracket, you'll see that in the type comments parameter we have no information. So I'll add some information in here, and it will then be visible in the tag. And this is a bit smarter because then you can reuse the information that we have in the type comments value field. So if we would like to change something later on, it's we only have to do that one place. If we were using manually text, we have to go through all details and then change the text manually. If we would like to have a bit larger dot, as you can see here, we can choose between 1 and 3 millimeter filled dot. If we would like to have a 2 millimeter, 1 is too small, 3 is too big, then under additional settings in Manage, you'll see that we can change the arrowheads. Sorry about this, but I think you get the meaning of it. Change this, duplicate this, and change the value to 2. And then when we select this text, we can change the arrowhead to 2, and that will be the same on the detail tag. Then it's more visible what the leader will be pointing at. We just cannot expect to find all the detail items that we need on the web or among DANedu or the Revit detail items. So we need to know how to create our own detail items. So I'll create this 8mm fiber cement panel underneath the roof. So let's create a new detail item. So under File and New, I'll create a new family. I have two different detail item and detail item line based, and we'll create a line based. Here you'll see that we have 3 reference planes. We have a reference line. So we need to create a filled region inside the 2 reference planes. You'll see the length 1200 that we have. And I do that on top of the reference planes, because then I can lock the lines to the reference planes. I want to have my thickness to 8mm. So I change that into 8. And instead of locking it to 8mm, I would like to have the opportunity to change the 8mm in my project. So instead of locking it, I select the dimension or the temporary dimension and make it into a normal dimension. And that will give me the opportunity to change this dimension into a label and add a parameter, for example, thickness. It should be a type parameter, so whenever I change a type, it will be applied to all types in the project. So now I can control the thickness in my project when I finish this detail item. You can see that our filled region is a concrete block, and we just want this fiber cement to be white or have a fill pattern, a white fill pattern. So we duplicate the black one into white and then change the color to white. Before we finish this, it's a good idea to see, of course it's a good idea to change this, but to see if it works as a line-based family. It's a good idea to check, to simply move the end reference planes and see if our fiber cement board will follow when we move them. And it seems that it works perfect. So I load this into our project and take our fiber cement panel, and then I can draw from A to B wherever I want to have this. I can select it, I can drag the endpoints. Another good example that I would like to show you, speaking about detail items or line-based detail items, is a dam-proof membrane that we need to have in our construction, and it should be very clear where it's placed. So you can see when I open this, I have made it red with the dashed line or a hidden line. Maybe we can change this into a 5 line weight. And if we load this into the project and add this to our detail or to our callout, start here and then make it as a chain, and then add this to our construction, then it's very clear to see where we should place the dam-proof membrane. Let me show you an example on why we should use detail item line-based instead of just detail lines. If, for example, we have this dam-proof membrane that we have here, we have made this as a 0.2 millimeter thickness. If we later find out that we need to change this to 0.15, if it was made manually by detail lines and just manual text, we should go through maybe 50 or 100 different details to change that. If we have added the information in the type comments value field as we have done here, let me show you an example of it where we have another detail here. If we rename the detail item and rename the value, because it's a tag, it will be updated on all details where we have add the tag. So before we made a detail item line based, but it can be more simple than that. Let's have a look at how to create just an ordinary detail item. So metric detail item will have this cross or intersection of the two reference planes. So that will be our insertion point where we insert our detail item in the project. So if we, in this example, try to create a skirting between the wall and the roof, I save this, and then I load this into project and place it on my detail. Remember, you can use the spacebar on your keyboard to rotate the skirting. When you add the detail item tag to the detail item, and if it has no information, you can select the tag and actually write in the tag. Then the information will be added to the type comments value parameter. For having the correct information on the detail, you need to add dimensions. If you have a grid line as we have here, it's a good idea to add dimensions to the grid lines so it's clear to see. And we need to add spot elevations as well. And since we have the shared information of this this model, I will add a spot elevation. If we remember back to what we did in the schematic design phase, we took some descriptions of our building components from this Excel spreadsheet. You have the opportunity to add this information, since what we're looking at here is the building components. So we can add this keynote, both number and text, if we would like to have that. If you forgot where it came from, it was this spreadsheet that we made in the scheme design describing the different building components and adding the code to every building component. But last, in this video, I promised you to show you how I created this guide for setting up distances between text and arrowheads on our detail view. So that will be the last part of this video.